Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Think with a Drink. This is the weekly webinar series brought to you by the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. And it is May the 4th, so it is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So we are doing a little fun take on that with, and I guess I should be doing this like Darth Vader, like,
welcome to the dark side of investing.
I can't really do it. I need the scuba mask. That's how they did that. Spoiler alert for anybody who didn't know, that's how they made Darth Vader sound that way. But anyway, we're doing Welcome to the Dark Side of Investing for Star Wars Day. It is May the 4th. A couple of notes of housekeeping before we get started. One, I'm flying the Millennium Falcon all by myself tonight because Craig is off in another part of the universe fighting some forces of bad or evil, and so hopefully he will be well, but he is not with me tonight, so I'm trying to do this solo, so that's why it's a little funky here for me trying to navigate through all of this. But just know we are recording. I did remember to hit the button for that, fortunately. And that we share this on our website, we share it on our YouTube channels. All we ask is that if you are sharing any of this content, that you do so in an educational manner. We'll explain that in a second. And lastly, and most importantly with that if you do have any questions, just drop them into the chat box. I don't know that I'm going to be able to try to navigate through this until we get to the end, but I will try in terms of dealing with that. So told you that Think with a Drink is brought to you by the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. You can visit us on the web. It's ariesfoundation.org. Our mission at Aries is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. Because whether you realize it or not, you are actually in a relationship with your money. And just like every other personal relationship that you have, there are behaviors and triggers and things that cause us to act sometimes a little irrationally when it comes to dealing with our money and our finances. That's all myself, Craig. The rest of the Aries team tends to do and want to do is try to help everybody take some of that emotion out of their money, their finances, their investing. Speaking of which, I sort of mentioned that Craig wasn't here. I'll give you, who we are, your presenters for this evening. My name is Tom Alessi. I am the president of the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. I have been in financial services. I'm now in my 24th year. I'm an investment advisor. That means that I act as a fiduciary whenever I'm giving guidance or advice to any of my clients. My co-president, Craig Richardson, who's not here this evening, like I said, he's battling forces off on another part of the universe, is a financial services professional. He's been in the business, in the industry for over 19 years and really works on the planning side, trying to help families have that connection, that better relationship to understanding the process and how to plan for their future goals. But you can reach out to us, get all of that info, get all that detail on our website. That's ariesfoundation.org. Okay. Now we come to the fun part of this evening. We call this Think with a Drink because we know that a lot of times what happens is money, finances tends to be a little intimidating. It tends to be that thing that we want to put off into the future that we don't want to deal with today. And so we try to take things from a more casual, a more relaxed atmosphere. And we can't think of a better way to do that than as if we have something cold to sip on while we're doing this. And so for tonight, because we're dealing with the dark side, we wanted something that was going to shine a little light on things. And so this is called Brite as Hell. It's a Hell's Lager from our friends at Jack's Abbey's Brewing. Hells tend to be, if you think of Pilsners and Hells, they're very similar. Hells tend to be a little bit more malty, whereas Pilsners tend to have a little bit more spicy hop ring, flavoring to them. Benefit for us is that Brite as Hell is only available at the beer hall, Jack's Abbey's Beer Hall. So if you do want to get some of this, you got to go. It's 100 Clinton Street in Framingham, Mass. We just happen to have a little connection that gets us so that we were able to get this stuff out of the beer hall, which is kind of cool for us. If you're thinking about pairing food, which is something we like to talk about here, with a Hell's, seafood is certainly something that goes very well, whether we're talking about shrimp or scallops crab, certainly a local favorite for us, fried calamari, and also pretzels. Pretzels, the salt go off because there's bubbles in terms of this, is a great way to pair that. So Jack's Abbey, bright as hell. I'm going to pop this and go to my next screen because we're still talking about Jack's Abbey here. And for those who didn't know, it is Mayfest. This is something that Jack's Abbey does every year. Mayfest takes place this coming weekend. So it's May 5th through the 7th. That's at their beer hall, again, 100 Clinton Street in Framingham. You can see it, it's all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And, it's basically everything to do with a German festival. So, have a lot of fun. If you can get by there, it's a great time. Certainly recommend that. All right, I'm gonna have a sip of this before I start. Oh yeah, no, see, that'll light up any lightsaber. There we go, bright as hell. All right, let's get into some of the dark side with this. So the first thing we're going to talk about here are fraud, cons, and scams, right? So these are you're investing, or you're thinking about investing, or you're looking for it, and these are some of the things to be thinking about, worried about, or looking at. So some of them we already know, or they've made headlines, or you've seen them. Ponzi schemes is on there. Bernie Madoff is probably the most famous example of this, even though the guy, Charles Ponzi, is the guy who they were named after, who did this in the 1920s. But Madoff certainly, did it on a much, much grander scale. But this is where one of the tip-offs for this is that unrealistic returns, right? Where promises and unrealistic returns are being done, that generally that the rest of the market is not hitting those same numbers. This could let you know that, wait a minute, there's something going on here. This isn't right. Similar to a Ponzi scheme, you have pyramid schemes where it's just literally asking you to bring people in. So if anything's asking you to, sign people up or bring people in or recruit people in, you're probably dealing with a pyramid scheme. Pump and dump. This is generally usually done with those penny stocks, the lower yield, lower cost, where you're trying to drive up the security, not really that regulated, and then the people who are in charge just get out. They try to run it up, and then it drops from there. On there is listed internet and social media fraud. This is something because more and more people are turning to the internet, they're turning to their social media channels, trying to get information on tips and ideas for investing and investments. Just be aware, a lot of times you're talking or getting information from people who are not licensed, who are, shouldn't be telling or yielding anything. And a lot of these times they're pointing you to securities that are not licensed securities. And we'll talk about that in a second with the whole crypto thing on there. But you can just see that these, there's so many out there, frauds that occur regularly. Some of the scams that are listed there, investment coaching. Anytime somebody's telling you, hey, buy my system or take my course, I'm going to show you how to make money, or my system's going to work for you. Realize the same thing with real estate investment, precious metals, coins, crypto goes into the same thing there. These are more than likely, falsehoods. They're just misleading, and more than likely you're just going to end up losing your money because they weren't legitimate investments and they weren't legitimate securities that you were looking at. Anything that sounds too good to be true generally means it's not real. So you just understand that there's a lot of that out there, very prevalent. So it's always do your due diligence, follow up on it, check them out, make sure that it's a registered security before you hand over any money to anyone. Sorry. Crypto. So, we've seen crypto and we've seen legitimate crypto. That's just all of a sudden disappear. And so it just sets up that every time if you go in and really start looking at and reading about crypto and some of the things that have gone on, where you talk about pump and dump schemes, where these are coins or platforms that have been built up where literally there's nothing that's backing or holding your security, your money anywhere. And like the wallets get frozen, the wallets get taken, and everything is gone. So if you're thinking about crypto or wanting to do it, I suggest you look at one that's got a foothold or a place in a US marketplace, because otherwise the likelihood that it's going to remain or still be there, or take your wallet offline so that only you have access to it, is a way to protect yourself. Some of the things in there, like if somebody's giving you crypto in a giveaway, anything that, done like that, more than likely it's a scam. Same thing with crypto romance, where somebody's trying to talk to you and fall in love with you and then wanting you to help them or give them crypto. That's some of the stuff that's gone on in fraud there as well. We've seen what is that with the advance fee fraud? That's the number 2 on that list there. That's the Nigerian prince, right? That's where I'm a Nigerian prince. I've got, $12 billion in the bank, but I need you to send me 1,500 so I can release it to you, type of thing. Same thing happens in crypto. Same thing happens in some of the others. Just know, unless you can do some background checks, some due diligence, and we'll talk about background checks in a little while, most of this stuff, just delete it. Don't even open it. Don't even look at it. It's going to be a con. It's going to be a scam. You're more than likely going to end up losing your money. So just be aware, there's a lot of it out there, and the internet, social media, crypto especially, have been making it more and more and more prevalent and harder to understand there's nuances there. They've gotten very, very good now at being able to really almost present it like this is a true and actual thing. So you got to do a lot of due diligence and only work with people who are licensed, because that's all I can tell you as far as way to protect yourself. All right, fees. Everybody talks about fees, those the bogleheads and the boggleheads and the Vanguard and all of that. But really what we're talking about here with these fees is these are fees inside of fees. And when we say that, so a lot of times you'll hear an advisor say, my fee is 1% or 1.25 or 1.5%. What they don't take the next step or go further with, and again, this is something to have a conversation with. If you have an advisor, if you're being charged an advisory fee, to ask them, what other charges are there in this account? Because a lot of times that 1% or that 1.25 or whatever it may be is just their fee. There's then a trading fee, which is known as a platform fee. And then there's actually the investment fees, whatever is being held inside that account, which I honestly you could end up paying somewhere over 2.5% inside this account, but thinking you're only paying 1 because it's not being disclosed. So you just want to make sure you're aware of everything that's in there, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, just so long as you're aware of it. As long as we know up front what's being charged or what the cost is, I think we're okay. It's just a lot of times what happens is this is sort of well, here's my fee. I'm paying my advisor 1%, but you don't realize is there's another 1.5 on the back side of that that's not being disclosed to you. So it's something that really you need to be taking into consideration when we're looking at fees, when we're looking at costs. Like, how does that all add up? What does that mean to me? This is usually in managed accounts under the umbrella of RIA, which is Registered Investment Advisory Services, not mutual funds. Mutual funds come in a different slice. Mutual funds come with a load. That's an upfront sales charge that happens, that there's really no way around that unless you go direct to like a Vanguard or Fidelity or someone like that, and then you're on your own. So there's a trade-off there if you're going to be in control on yourself. But we're talking about, in this case, with the fees on having an advisor who's helping you out. You just want to make sure you understand what all of those costs are. And then that slides us right into, let's call it, unethical behavior. You know, there's bad actors in every single business out there, right? It just tends to be a little bit more upsetting and certainly more, I don't know what you egregious when the bad actors are actually dealing with my money. And you can see that, this is telling you last year, this is 2022, the SEC leveled a record $6.5 billion. Now that 6.5 billion, that goes from everything from very, very high level, i.e. the investment companies, the big banks themselves, all the way down to the guy who's dealing with your account on Main Street. It runs the gamut from there because big companies get whacked every year, just like the little guy does. Now, sometimes the little guy is doing things that's very, very bad, right? And then they're getting banned from the industry. And a lot of times the big bank or the big investment company just admits to wrongdoing, pays a fine, and then they move on. They're not knocking them out of the business. But that's 6.5 billion. That's just in fines. That's who they caught. Now you got to think that there's probably, a whole slew of people that slid by that didn't get caught. The SEC is trying, they're doing all that they can, but a lot of this comes back again onto, Mr. and Mrs. Public, right? You as an investor, having a conversation, understanding what it is that your money is being put into, understanding what the costs are, understanding if there are surrender charges, if there are additional fees, if I want to move my money out, is that going to cost me? All of the things, these are questions that should be asked up front to avoid some of this. In some cases, this is oversight. Like this is the big company not overseeing or not following through on some of their own trading regulations, some of the things that they set up, those type of things. That's where some of this comes in. But there is a lot of it out there, unfortunately. And, I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. I don't know that 2023 is going to be worse than 2022, but they're going to do everything they can to stay on top of this. That's what the SEC is trying to do. That's a Securities Exchange Commission, just so we know. It's not the football conference. Okay, so this isn't really, say, the dark side of it, but it's somewhere in the gray area of that. And, that's that your advisor is no longer an advisor. So here's the thing, actually now 3 years ago, 2020, the Securities Exchange Commission implemented guidelines as to who actually could call themselves an advisor. See, in our industry, Craig and I, it had gotten really crazy. Like people were calling themselves all sorts of stuff, financial advisors and wealth managers and wealth planners and financial securities professional and registered rep and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. What the SEC said is no. Unless you are an investment advisor, you cannot use the term advisor on your website, business card, in any of the marketing, in any way that you promote yourself to the public. So a lot of individuals who are out there who were calling themselves advisors now suddenly are no longer able to do that. And their cards and their website and their marketing should have changed to be financial professional, registered rep, or even broker, because that's more to what they are and what they do. But you really have to be an investment advisor in order to be able to use the term financial advisor or any type of advisor when promoting yourself to the public. This is the SEC guidelines. It's what they call the best interest rule, which originally was launched prior to that as the fiduciary rule. I won't go into the ins and outs of that, but just know it's interesting to see, and I'm going to go through with how you can check with whoever you're dealing with to see what they are or what they have. And it's simple. It's a process. You go to the website's right there on the screen. It's brokercheck.finra.org. If you just type broker check into Google, this is what's going to pop up, right? So you just go to finra.org and you'll see broker check. And what broker check says is you can type in the individual's name. In my case, I give everybody my CRD number whenever I meet with them. It's the first thing I tell everybody. And the first thing I say for anyone out there, anyone listening, the first thing you should do before you're going to meet with somebody, before you're going to talk with them, is look them up on broker check, right? You can type in their name. You can ask them if they've set up a time to meet with you, what their CRD number is, so that then you can just type that in. My CRD number, for those out there, it's 326-8500. 326-8500. You'll see it in a second. But that's my CRD number. And then all you do is hit search. And what's going to pop up is you're going to see the individual. And so what you're going to see from that is it's going to give you information about them. The first thing it's going to tell you is whether or not they're an investment advisor, because that's going to show you right there on the screen. It's going to tell you, okay, this person's an IA. That means they are an advisor. They act in a fiduciary capacity, right? The next thing it's going to show you is how many years they've been in the business. I told you I'm in my 24th year. Technically for them, it's 23 years because I haven't crested into my 24th. That will be in a couple of months. I'll hit my 24th year. And then if there have been any, let's call them disclosures, shenanigans, improprieties, any complaints filed against them, that will show up. So this is what the broker check gives everybody. And then you can see up here under my name, it gives you my CRD number, 326-8500. I just tell everybody use that. Anytime I'm going to meet with somebody, anytime I'm talking with them, I'm like, go to broker check and just look me up, because it's the first thing you should do for everybody. So that's one way, because if they don't show up in broker check, it means they're not licensed. There's an immediate tip off for you. So that's one way to protect yourself, say, oh, wait, this person, or, they're telling me one thing, but this is telling me something different in terms of the information. So it's a way to protect yourself. Okay, now we get into risk. And here's the thing with investing. Risk is probably the biggest or most, how to say this in a way that makes sense for everybody, that we tend to focus as investors on reward, on the return, right? What it's going to, every time, if Craig was here, we'd be iterating, go back and forth. The number of times we sit down with people who say, well, what's that going to make, or what's it going to get for a return, or how much is the money going to grow by? And, for us, the whole thing is, no, this is about how much you're willing to risk. Because understand, it's not just about market going up. This is about the market going down, about the market going sideways, because that's what causes more problems for anybody, is the fact that we were not buffered, we were not prepared to lose. And when the market starts to go down, we panic and we sell. And we sell usually before the market rebounds, before it takes back off, because we did not have the stomach for it, or we didn't prepare ourselves for it. And that's where risk comes in. So if you put the mindset in that I am going to invest in this and I'm going to leave it wherever it is for a time period, because I am prepared to lose 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is. And so long as I stay within that threshold, I'm okay. Then you're all right. You should be okay. The problem is for most of us is there's that threshold that we're not prepared for. We tell ourselves 10, but at 8 we sell. And so that's where risk comes in. And there's different types of investment risk out there. There's market risk, which is what I was just talking about. That's with the market going down or moving in a direction that we didn't want. There's sequence of returns risk. This gets more as we're preparing for retirement. We talk about this a lot in terms of preparing for retirement, preparing for income distribution, sequence of risk, because when you look at any calculator or any tool, it just shows the market going up. The last 20 years, 2001 to 2021, which I believe is like 21 years technically, that the market returned 9.99%, the S&P 500 over that time period. However, it didn't do that every single year. There were up years, there were down years. There were years where it was significantly down. 2008 comes to mind, right? Last year comes to mind. So that the sequence of risk, the sequence of return risk means that I'm prepared, and I'm looking at this out and saying 7% a year, but I'm not going to do exactly 7%. And I've got to be thinking about how I'm going to be distributing my money when I don't get 7%. Or even worse, I lost money in a year. Interest rate risk, that's what we're going through now. The Fed just swung the hammer again just yesterday and said, hey, we're raising the rates. The overnight Fed lending rate is over 5 now, which this has been a long time, going back to 2007 before that happened. Remember what happened after that. So, interest rate affects bonds. As interest rates rise, the valuation of bonds go down. So bonds last year in 2022 was the worst year for US bonds on record. So going to be a while before the bond market really gets itself back into order. With the interest rates rising, new bonds are doing better, but old bonds are getting beat up left, right, and sideways. And then there's always taxation. We never know where taxes are going to be or where they're going to go or what's going to come from taxes. So this is another factor with that. So there we are. It's May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day. We're having a little fun. The dark side of investing. Really, the idea here in the summary is you are in control. You should be in control, and you should feel like you are in control. You should be the one who's guiding this, not whoever is talking to you, not whoever your advisor is or whoever they're telling you. It should be you who's making these decisions, who's doing a little due diligence, doing a little background check, finding out some information and getting all of the details. Too often we hear, well, the person came, they did a nice presentation, we did some stuff, and then they disappeared. Those are bad actors, unfortunately. Those are people that they are going to be in every industry. When it's our money, it gets, like I said, a little bit more, egregious, a little bit more heartfelt, and a little more hurt in terms of dealing with everything. But you can be in control. You can find the shining light in all of this because investing is important. It's absolutely critical to any type of financial goal or financial planning that you have in mind. Specifically, if we're talking about major purchase or retirement, something way out into the future. And that's really where Aries comes into play. For us, the whole idea is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. So on the screen there, that QR code, you can just, if you're watching this as the recording, or for anybody in the audience, you can shoot the QR code. The link is on there as well. That'll open up our calendar. We're happy to have a conversation with you. There's no cost. There's no obligation. We do this because this is what we do. We're trying to help everybody sort of have that mindset, get that understanding, and be able to guide themselves through all of it. Okay, we keep the Think with a Drink theme going with what's on tap, right? So what's coming up? So next week, 5/11, we're going to do Sell in May and Go Away. This is a long-held investing belief and investing adage, and there's a reason that it's there and that it works. We just don't feel that 2023 is the year it's going to work. And we'll go through why it's worked in the past and why it may not fit for this year. That's next week. On the 18th, it's National Disability Insurance Awareness Month, not disability awareness, disability insurance. Why disability insurance is so important to everybody. A lot of us get it from our employer. Some of us get it, but don't take advantage of it. So what it means, what's disability and coverage all about, and why it's so important. And then at the end of the month, because we're heading into the summer months, how to take the stress out of your summer vacation. All right, I don't have Craig here with me, so I can't really do the whole Q&A thing in terms of dealing with that. So I'm just going to say, listen, if you ever do have any questions, again, go to the website. It's aresfoundation.org. You can email us at info@aresfoundation.org, or better yet, for the ease of just having a conversation, shoot the QR code. It's right on the screen. Open up our calendar, schedule an event. And with that, I'm going to say good night, and may the 4th be with you.